A woman enters the confessional, kneels, opens her mouth to speak, but no sound comes out, just tears. Silent, devastating tears that flow like rivers down her face. She tries again. Nothing. Her lips move, but her voice is gone. Not physically. She can speak, but the weight of what she's carrying has literally stolen her ability to confess it out loud. Padre Pio looks at her, and in that moment, he sees something that makes his stigmata wounds burn with sudden intensity. Because what this mother is hiding, what she can't say, is so horrific that her soul has shut down her voice to protect itself from the truth. What Padre Pio discovered in the silence will absolutely wreck you. And if you've ever kept a secret that's eating you alive, you need to hear this. Before we dive into what this woman couldn't say, and trust me, when you hear it, you'll understand why. You need to understand something about silence that Padre Pio taught, but nobody talks about. There are two kinds of silence. Holy silence, the kind where you're quiet before God, listening, open, and toxic silence, the kind where you're keeping secrets, hiding sin, protecting lies. Holy silence heals. Toxic silence kills. And this woman? She was dying in toxic silence, had been for 3 years. The secret she was carrying was so heavy it had crushed her voice, her joy, her ability to even look at herself in the mirror. Her name was Teresa, 42 years old, mother of 4. From the outside, she looked fine. Went to Mass, cooked dinner, smiled at neighbors. But inside, she was screaming. And that scream had been silent for so long that it had become her entire identity. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to reveal will show you the danger of keeping secrets and the supernatural power of finally breaking silence. Teresa kneels in front of Padre Pio, tears pouring down her face, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. No words, just agony. And Padre Pio, who had the gift of reading souls, sees it immediately. Sees what happened 3 years ago that destroyed her. Sees the secret that stole her voice. He speaks first. It was an accident. Teresa's eyes go wide. How does he know? He continues, gentle but firm. Your youngest child, 3 years ago, the drowning. You blame yourself. She nods, sobbing harder, but still no sound comes out. Padre Pio leans closer to the confessional screen. You were distracted for 30 seconds. That's all it took. 30 seconds where you turned your back. And when you turned around, he was floating, face down, in the pond behind your house. Now she screams, but it comes out silent. Just air, just anguish with no voice. Her body convulses with the grief she's never been able to express out loud. You pulled him out, Padre Pio continues, and now his voice is shaking because he can see it, all of it, playing out in spiritual vision. You tried to revive him, breathed into his little lungs, pumped his chest, screamed for help, but it was too late. He was gone. 4 years old. Your baby. Dead because you looked away for 30 seconds. Teresa is now collapsed completely, forehead pressed against the confessional wall, shaking uncontrollably. But here's the part that makes this even more devastating. You never told anyone it was your fault, Padre Pio whispers. The official report said tragic accident. Your husband thinks it was nobody's fault. Your other children think their little brother just drowned. But you know you were supposed to be watching him. You know those 30 seconds were your fault, and you've been carrying that guilt in absolute silence for 3 years. Parents, can you even imagine this? The weight of that secret? Drop a comment if you're feeling this because it gets so much worse. Now Padre Pio does something that shocks Teresa. He opens the confessional door, which priests never do during confession, and looks at her directly, face to face. Teresa, look at me. She can't. Keeps her head down, shame overwhelming. Look at me. She finally raises her eyes. Everything you believe about yourself is a lie. She shakes her head violently. No, it's not a lie. She's guilty. She's responsible. She killed her child through negligence. But Padre Pio continues, firm. You made a mistake. A terrible, devastating mistake. You were human for 30 seconds, and a tragedy happened. But you did not murder your child. You did not wake up that morning and decide to let him die. You did not look away out of malice or evil. You were distracted for 30 seconds, and in those 30 seconds, an accident occurred that has tortured you ever since. But here's what you don't know. Here's what I'm seeing right now that you can't see. He pauses for dramatic effect. Your son is in heaven. Do you hear me? Heaven. Not purgatory, not some waiting place. Heaven. Because he died innocent, baptized, before the age of reason. And do you know what he's been doing for 3 years? Teresa's eyes widen. He's been praying for you, begging God to help his mama, begging the saints to intervene, begging me, yes, me specifically, to tell you the truth you refuse to believe, that it wasn't your fault the way you think it was, that he doesn't blame you, that he loves you, that he wants you to live, not die slowly in guilt. Now Padre Pio's voice rises with intensity. Your son is in paradise. Perfect joy, no pain, no suffering. He's with Jesus, with Mary, with all the angels and saints. And he's fine, more than fine. But his mother? His mother is in hell. Self-made hell. Hell constructed of guilt and silence and lies. And he's watching you destroy yourself, and he's begging you to stop. Can you even imagine? Your child in heaven, perfectly happy, while you torture yourself with guilt he doesn't even want you to carry? Comment. This is powerful if you're feeling this. Something shifts in Teresa. You can physically see it. Her shoulders straighten slightly. Her breathing changes. And then, for the first time in 3 years, she speaks. One word. Barely a whisper, but audible. How? Padre Pio smiles. Because that one word, that tiny crack in the wall of silence, is the beginning of healing. How is he in heaven? Because God's mercy is greater than your guilt. How can he forgive you? Because there's nothing to forgive. It was an accident, not a sin. How can you move forward? By finally saying it out loud. By breaking the silence that's been killing you. And then Padre Pio does something incredible. He commands her, say his name. She shakes her head. Can't. Say his name. tears flowing. I can't. You can. Say your son's name, right now, out loud. And she does. Barely audible, but real. Marco. Louder. Marco. Again. Louder. Marco. And with that shout, something breaks. The dam of 3 years of silence shatters, and words come pouring out, not organized, not coherent, just a flood of everything she's been holding. I'm sorry I looked away. I'm sorry I wasn't watching. I'm sorry I couldn't save him. I'm sorry I failed him. I'm sorry I'm a terrible mother. I'm sorry I let him die. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She's sobbing now, but her voice is back. The thing that silence stole from her is returning because she's finally speaking the truth out loud. Padre Pio lets her cry for several minutes, lets it all pour out. 3 years of grief and guilt and agony finally finding expression. When she finally quiets, he says gently, "Now, do you want absolution? Do you want forgiveness for the sin you think you committed?" "Yes. Please. Yes." "Then confess. Not what you think happened, but what actually happened. Tell me the truth." And Teresa, voice shaking but present, confesses, "Father, I was distracted for 30 seconds. I looked away from my son, and he drowned. It was an accident. I didn't mean for it to happen. I would give anything, to go back and change it. But I can't. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't more careful. I'm so sorry I failed to protect him. I'm so sorry." Padre Pio, tears in his own eyes now. "Teresa, as a priest, I have no power to absolve you for this, because this is not a sin. This is a tragedy. This is human limitation. This is an accident that you have turned into a life sentence of self-punishment. But I do have the power to tell you what God wants you to hear. You are forgiven. Not because you did something that requires forgiveness, but because you believe you did. God forgives your guilt. God forgives your silence. God forgives your despair. And He commands you to forgive yourself. Your son Marco is in heaven. He is fine. He is more than fine. And He releases you. He wants you to live, to love your other children fully, to be present with your husband, to receive communion again, to stop punishing yourself for an accident you couldn't prevent. He makes the sign of the cross. I absolve you of the guilt you've been carrying. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace, and live." Teresa left that confessional a different woman. Not healed instantly. Grief doesn't work that way. But freed. The silence was broken. The secret was out. The guilt was released. Padre Pio later told the other friars what happened in the following months. Teresa went home and told her husband everything, and instead of judging her, he wept with her, because he had been living with a ghost of his wife for 3 years and didn't know why. Now he understood, and they grieved together for the first time. She gathered her 3 living children and told them about that day, age appropriately, carefully, and they cried together. And they began healing together instead of suffering in isolation. She went to Mass that Sunday and received communion for the first time in 3 years. And she said later it felt like coming home after being lost in the wilderness. And most importantly, she started living again, not forgetting Marco, never forgetting, but carrying his memory with love instead of crushing guilt. Padre Pio said this about her case: silence can be holy, but silence can also be deadly. When you hide sin, hide guilt, hide shame in toxic silence, you're not protecting yourself. You're slowly poisoning yourself. The antidote is always the same. Speak. Confess. Bring it into the light. Because nothing is so bad that speaking it out loud is worse than carrying it in silence. So here's what you need to hear today. What are you carrying in silence? What secret is eating you alive? What guilt is crushing you? What shame are you hiding that's slowly destroying your soul? Maybe it's not as dramatic as Teresa's story. Maybe it's smaller. An affair. An addiction. A lie you told years ago that spiraled. A mistake you made that hurt someone. A sin you committed that you're too ashamed to confess. Whatever it is, the silence is killing you. Slowly, quietly, but surely. Here's what you do right now. Find someone safe. A priest, a counselor, a trusted friend, and speak it. Say out loud the thing you've been hiding. Break the silence. Bring it into the light. Will it be painful? Yes. Terrifying? Absolutely. But I promise you, the relief that comes from finally speaking the truth is worth every second of discomfort. Because silence doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. And the truth? The truth sets you free. Drop a comment. I'm breaking my silence, if you're ready to stop hiding. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because someone in your life is suffering in silence right now, and this might save them. Subscribe, because I'm going to keep bringing you these real stories that reveal uncomfortable truths about faith, healing, and the human condition. Teresa spent 3 years in self-made hell. Don't waste another day in yours. Speak, confess, heal. The silence doesn't have to win.